How's it going, everybody? Cameron here with Canadian Gamer. Now, I do apologize. I've been MIA the last couple of days. I do have good reason for that. Number one, I went back out yesterday on that trail that I found. I posted a video a couple of days ago talking about the Blair Witch conspiracy. I went back to that trail, and I've been enjoying it quite a bit. The second thing, I finally sat down and completed The Last of Us. I spent the last day and a half, 2 days, working on this game. Good God. Good Lord. So I've been really busy with that. Also, as well, I wanted to mention, I don't know if anybody saw my Resident Evil Village video. That went somewhat viral for a small channel like mine. As I post this video here, I'm creeping up on 4,000 views on that video. Triggered a lot of people. So, yeah, good stuff happening on the channel here. But yeah, the main thing we want to talk about today, and I don't want to make this a long-winded video, I want to make it short and sweet. I beat The Last of Us this afternoon, and I've actually written down on here what I want to talk about so I don't miss anything. So here we go. So The Last of Us, it did take me about roughly 14 hours to beat. So it is a long game. It is one of those games where when you started out at first hour and a half, 2 hours, it's misleading because it says you're done about 20% of the game. But then as you get further into the game, it takes longer to, complete the percentage of the game. It takes quite a while to get through it. So yeah, about 14 hours, long enough for an old timer like me. That's the sweet spot right there, about 14 hours. I don't think it can go any further than that. Like I said, playing games like RDR2 and Cyberpunk 2077, those games there, took away a chunk of my life. So I guess the next thing we'll talk about the good first. Graphics and presentation. So without a doubt, this game, I would say the graphics and presentation is a 10 out of 10. I don't think I've ever seen a 7th gen game that looks as good as this game. Maybe the original Red Dead Redemption. There could be an argument there. But the game looks incredible when, in the midst of the game, while you're playing it, you're constantly stopping the action, or you're stopping the movement of the player just to take in what's around you. So, yeah, the graphics are incredible, and I throw presentation in there as well because there's a lot of times where you're, how newer games do it nowadays. I think this was a pioneer for it, but the game, you'd be playing it, and all of a sudden, the character would sort of segue into a cutscene that was sort of blended into the gameplay, so it feels like the cutscene's part of the gameplay. The cutscene would kind of take over a slick presentation, and then once the cutscene is over, it brings you back into the character of either Joel or Ellie. So yeah, Naughty Dog, they're right up there with Rockstar as far as presentation is concerned, no doubt about it. 10 out of 10. I can't see how anybody would really argue about that. As I look at my 7th gen games that I have here, honestly, I can't think of any other game that looks as good as this. Audio, I would give it a 9 out of 10. I think the audio, sound, and music is damn well perfect in this game. The reason why I give it a 9 is because I'm not crazy on the country twang of some of the ambient music, but that's just personal taste. Other than that, though, an example of great audio in this game and sound effects is when you're in the cabin area of the game and you're playing as Ellie and you're shooting off the gun, whatever gun it is that you have. You can hear it echo throughout the valley. It almost feels like, again, like you're in a snowy valley, and you let that gun go, and you can hear the bang. It's just absolutely incredible. Yeah, I don't have anything bad to say about the audio. Fantastic. The controls, I would say I'd give the controls about an 8 out of 10. The controls are really easy to pick up and play. You get used to it. I didn't play it with auto aim on, guys. And now that I've played through this game without auto aim on, I don't think I'll ever use auto aim ever again in a video game. It was much more enjoyable to play the game without auto aim, and to be able to learn and craft the shooting. The gunplay mechanics are incredible in this game, but we're getting ahead of ourselves here. The reason why I give the controls an 8 out of 10, I think there's room for improvement, especially with the health regeneration. It requires you to press up and the top right button as well, so 2 buttons at the same time. I wish they could have figured out a way for the character to have been able to regenerate their health with a 1 button press. It can be kind of a pain in the ass, when you're in the midst of a heated battle and you're trying to regenerate your health. Oh, something else I want to mention. I guess it would fall under graphics and presentation, maybe not. This is not necessarily. Maybe it's the fault of the game, maybe not. The loading in the game, at least for the PS3 version, it takes forever to get into the game. Long loading screens between chapters. Sometimes it loads as well. Again, I think that has more to do with this game pushing the hardware limitations of the PS3 than anything else. I don't know if the loading times are like that on the PS4 remaster. Maybe you guys can let me know. Story. Now this is where it kind of goes downhill for me a little bit. I would say the story, I'll be generous here. I'll give it a 4 out of 10. I was going to give it a 1. I was just not emotionally invested in the story. Again, the whole zombie apocalypse thing has been done to death. It got to the point where in the midst of cutscenes, I'd find myself staring off into the distance, not paying attention to the cutscenes. I started to skip cutscenes purposely because I didn't want to listen to it. I'd pick up audio logs and other artifacts within the game and I wouldn't even look at it, and I'd just keep on trucking. Not emotionally invested in the story or the characters at all. I know that might be polarizing for some. I know some people like the whole Ellie and Joel story, but didn't really do a whole lot for me. The gameplay, I would have to give this is probably the biggest sticking point I have with the game. The gameplay, I give it maybe a 6 out of 10. So when the game is at its best, I find it's when you're in the middle of these battles where you're shooting it out. Great gunplay mechanics, fantastic. Some very intense moments as well. Absolutely incredible. I think this game shares a lot of gameplay mechanics with Uncharted series. Maybe I'm wrong, you guys can correct me, but I haven't played the Uncharted games yet. We'll get to that in a minute. But I've seen a lot of videos on Uncharted, and when you play this game, there's just some holy fuck moments where you're hanging to a cliff or you're falling into a waterfall and things of that nature. And I could very much see how Naughty Dog, they obviously have perfected the craft of the Uncharted series, and they've sort of put some of those gameplay mechanics into this game. So that's fine. I don't have a problem with that whatsoever. The problem I have with the gameplay is you quickly realize after you're about maybe, 3 or 4 hours into the game, you quickly realize that each time you get into a certain area of the game, it's very much the same thing. You go in, you sneak around, you kill the NPCs, you collect everything in the room, you try to find all the bandages, all the scissors, all the pieces of scrap metal, all the medikits, all the ammo, and then you look for a ladder and you take the ladder and you put it against the wall, or you have Joel go like this and have Ellie jump in his hands and he pushes her up and she grabs the ladder. It's those same 3 or 4 gameplay elements, rinse and repeat. You do that and then you move on to the next section of the game and it's the same thing. It's the exact same thing over and over and over again. And yes, it does get repetitive and it does get mundane. But I say that, but there's a lot of other games, especially from this era, about 10, 11 years ago, that had the same sort of issues. Alan Wake is another game that shares a lot of the core gameplay elements as this game. No, they're not exactly the same. I would say Alan Wake has a much better story, but I would say this is probably the better game. But they share the same idea. You're on a linear path to the end of the game. It's almost like a collectathon. You're collecting ammo and health kits and all the rest of it. When you're going through Alan Wake, batteries, you're doing the same mundane tasks over and over and over again, and it's the same with this. So I don't know. You know, is it the game's fault, or is it just a product of the time? Maybe you guys can let me know in the comments below. But I did find after about 4 or 5 hours, I'm just like, holy fuck. But part of it's my fault too, because take as an example, when I play a game like Fallout, I'm OCD. I have to check every drawer. I have to go into every room. I have to scavenge every area of the map. I was like that with Skyrim as well. So when I play a game like this, do you have to go into every single room? No, you don't. Did I? Yes, I did. I couldn't help myself. So I constantly found myself going into abandoned houses, and you'd see the same set dressing over and over again as well. I want to mention that. You'd run into a house as an example, and you'd try to get to the top floor, and it'd always be blocked by the same piece of furniture and what have you. But anyways, yeah, it gets really repetitive. Again, it's the same 3 or 4 tasks over and over and over again. You know, hey Ellie, get down. Hey Ellie, help me with this ladder. Hey Ellie, how do we get up there? I can't swim. Let me get that crate for you, or let me get that pallet for you so you can jump on it so I can carry you through the water and get you up over here. So hopefully they can correct these things or tweak these things in the upcoming PS5. Is it going to be a remaster or a remake? Probably a remake. Hopefully they can tweak these things. So what else do we have here? Yeah, I guess... Yeah, I don't know. I guess that's the last thing I want to talk about. If this game gets a remake, I think in this case, this game could definitely benefit from a remake. I think if Naughty Dog takes their production values from, you know, their most recent games and their graphics and implement it into this game, and maybe tweak some of the gameplay mechanics, utilize some of the special haptic feedback from the PS5 controller, I absolutely think this could be a great PS5 game. But I think they should consider maybe tweaking some of the gameplay mechanics. Now, I do think the pacing is really good in this game. You're not always, you know, trying to sneak around, you know, the zombies. And what's the other zombie called there? I can't think of it. It's on the tip of my tongue. Maybe it'll come to me. But you're not always sneaking around, you know, the bad guys and the NPCs in this game. There's moments where it's quiet, where you're walking around in the areas, in the zones, and you're just sort of looking around. And I do like that type of pacing. If it was always run and gun throughout the entire game, it wouldn't be as good of a game. So yeah, that's my takeaways with this. I think somebody that reached out to me on Twitter, he said it best. This is probably the best 7 out of 10 game ever. You know, you give it a 2 out of 10 story and a 5 out of 10 gameplay. 5 plus 2 equals 7. So yeah, it's a good game. I wouldn't say it's the best game ever made. It's definitely a good game. It does have its issues, but it does have its redeeming qualities as well. I am glad that I got all the way through it. I do find the latter half of the game is much better than the first half, especially when you get outside and you're in those lush environments, especially when you're in that area where it's a cabin and the snowfall. And there's also an area where it kind of feels like you're in Maine, where there's a lot of trees and water. I don't know how Naughty Dog pulled off the graphics in this game for a 7th gen game. It's absolutely incredible. So that's it. I guess I'll leave the game. If I gave it a final score, I'll give it a 7 out of 10. I think it has moments of holy fuck, this game is incredible. And then I think it has some moments where I just kind of left my head scratching a bit as far as the gameplay is concerned. I didn't play the DLC. I just played the main quest. The ending, the way the story ends, is kind of odd as well at the very end, where Ellie was kind of like, are you telling me the truth about the fireflies? And then it just sort of cuts. I don't know. So that's it, guys. That's it. I beat it. Will I ever play it again? I don't think I will. It was a huge process just to get through this game, let me tell you. So now we move on to Uncharted Drake's Fortune. Looking forward to getting into this. So that's it. I think that's my 4th or 5th game I've beaten this year. I'm not quite sure. I'll have to go back and look. Anyways, guys, let me know what you guys think of The Last of Us. I'd like to know in the comments below. Anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this video. Thanks so much for watching. Take care.